Okay, let's start, everyone. My name is Bryan Roca from the Professional Development Direction at PMI Lima. We are very happy to enjoy this PD Talks. This PD Talk is the number 5. The PD Talk is one of the projects, one of the best space to understand, to learn a lot of experience, a lot of knowledge in PM about project management. Okay, let's start with this webinar. Okay, everybody knows about PMI Lima in this year will be 50, 55, oh sorry, 25 years of creation. It's like a milestone very important in this year. Okay, before to start with the conversation with our speaker, it's very important to know about each moderator. In this opportunity, my person, my name is Bryan Roca, and I am the mentor of the Professional Development Direction. And also in the last year, I was the director in this beautiful direction. I have the opportunity to know about Lambert in the PMI Rocks, in the second section in Thinking Out Loud in this year. But I am not alone in this moderation because in this opportunity I have invited for Colombia. She is Vanessa Acuña. Vanessa Acuña is an expert about PMI, about PMP exam. I would like to give the pass for Vanessa Acuña to introduce about herself in a short time, please.
Thank you so much, Bryan. Hello, everyone here. As you can see on the slide and the face behind your personal PM brand, I've been an IT project manager for over 15 years, and I have been a PMP certified since 2012. I'm also a college professor, a volunteer for various PMI chapters, and I was part of the founding board of the PMI Caribbean chapter in Colombia. I'm so happy to be with all of you today. So thank you so much. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Vanessa, for your introduction about you. Okay, let's start with the next slides, please. Before to start with the conversation in this professional development talk, we start with a dynamic about icebreaker. In Spanish means rompehielo, okay? For that, I'd you like to obtain your answers about what is your mood today, right now? Maybe the number 1, or the second, or the 3, the 4, until the 9, the 9th. In my case, is maybe I consider the number, where is the happy dog, the happy dog? Maybe the number 2. Okay, Cynthia Cuba by the chat tell us about the number 4. Early's, okay, it's Early's said us about the number 5. Vanessa Cunha, the number 4 too. Jonathan Banton, the number 1. While you are writing your numbers about your mood, I would like to tell you about this, my own milestone right now in this date, because in the last 5 years, I passed the exam PMP, but in the second attempt, because the exam PMP, maybe you know, is very complex to take the exam. I consider the best practice to pass the exam goes about to practice a lot by the simulators, reading the PIN book, practice a lot with the simulators. Okay, Lee Lambert about I'm getting heavy static on the, okay. Maybe Lee, could you see the docs in this dynamic? Maybe what's number is your mood? Okay, Victor Jauregui said us the number 7, okay? On wow, early is Vanessa Acuña. Maybe I consider we have the people from US, Richard Bestal, right? Nice to
Yes, we
meet
have
you,
to.
Richard Bestal.
Nice to have you here, Rich.
Mhm.
I hope, Lee, that you can hear us well because I think that you had some issues with the sound.
With the
I'm not
sound.
sure. Will you hear us well, Lee? Oh, he already put his answer. His the form.
Mhm. Okay, thank you for your participation for everyone. So we'll start with understanding the agreements. The idea to the idea to start with this webinar is to raise a hand in case you have question for Lee. The second is respect between us because it's very important to respect. The three is microphone for mute. And finally, the best agreement. Enjoy this beautiful webinar for everyone because I consider everyone will understand, will learn about the experience of Lee, the knowledge about PMP, in general, about project management. Okay, let's continue. Um, our, our inviter is from USA, United States of America. He is Lee Lambert. Lee Lambert, wow, Lee Lambert has a lot of experience in PMI. He is considered one of the founders of the PMP exam. Wow, Lee, nice to meet you again to take in this beautiful webinar with you. Before to start, Lee, I would like to give the path for you. In a short time, I would like, in case you need to introduce about yourself. Introduction about you. How do you feel, Lee?
Is it my turn?
Yes, please.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm
yeah.
having a little trouble with the sound here. I'm trying to fix it while we're talking. But I'll just have to muddle through. I think it's on my end, but I can't seem to get it straightened out. There's a lot of static. Well, let me do this. Let me tell your audience a little bit about me. If they don't know by now, they probably will before the night's over. I'm the oldest living person in PMI. I'm 55 years in the business of project management. I'm 47 years a member of PMI. Joined in 1978 when I was an engineer for General Electric Company. And at that time, I wasn't really doing project management. I was doing engineering work. I decided I wasn't crazy about engineering work and shopped around and found out this project management possibility was going to be a very big thing. So I decided I'd switch over and start doing project management again with General Electric on breeder reactor projects, big multi-million-dollar projects, and found out very quickly what a great career this is. It gives you an opportunity to meet a lot of new people, to look at the new trends that are going on and getting business done. And so I've stayed with it from then until now. In 1981, I was asked to join a committee of 5 people to actually create the PMP, the Project Management Professional certification that currently has about 1.5 million certified project managers. That number grows by 10 or 12 or 15 every day. And it's proven to be a pretty important part of my life. So I'm really looking forward to this. This is the second time I've had a chance to participate in this program. And this is an opportunity to sort of let you know why project management is such a popular career choice, and then go beyond that to show how you can position yourself in the best manner to be able to take advantage of your skills in project management. So I'm looking very much forward to providing this information to you. I'm sure you'll have questions. If you do, I'll sure try to answer them. But I think I've been with it from the very day one. So if I don't know the answer, nobody does.
Thank you so much, Lee, for your introduction. I know that a lot of people here have heard of you, definitely, and we are happy to have you here. So, well, we have some questions for you. So we would like to start with these questions over talk. I don't know if you can move to the next slide, please.
Okay, Vanessa, thank you for your participation. But before to give the part for you,
yes. Sorry.
I would like to tell you for everyone the indication for obtain the PDUs. In the next minutes, early success is one of the part in general of the professional development direction. If in the next minutes, he is going to share the survey, the form to put your recommendations, your evaluation about this webinar. And after that, in the next 5 business days as maximum, you obtain your certification and PDUs. Okay, that's very clear, right? For that, Vanessa Acuña is from Colombia. In this opportunity, she's help us about the question for Lambert. Go ahead, Vanessa.
Thank you, Bryan. So let's move to the next slide, please. To the next. Okay, this is the first question that we have for you, Lee. You can see then also in the screen. The first thing, well, you already talked a little bit about how was that big moment when you started this project of creation of this PMP certification in 1981. So we want to know what was the initial motivation behind the creation of the PMP certification? What was happening at that time? What was the initial motivation of all these people of these 5 people that were included in this project?
Yeah, it's kind of an interesting story, not one that everybody knows the details of. But in about 1979, we didn't feel like we were getting enough people joining the PMI. It was formed in '69. Not enough people were really joining, and project management wasn't getting the respect that we all thought it deserved. And later on, I'll talk about the 5 people that founded PMI and had the forethought to really move in this direction. But at the time in 1981, when they had approached me to volunteer to be one of the 5 people that formed the committee, the reasoning was this. People had decided that oftentimes the work we were doing as project managers was done sort of in what I'll call our spare time. In other words, that nobody was really called a project manager. They were called a technical manager. And oh, by the way, would you do this project work as sort of on the side? And so we began to recognize that this wasn't a part-time position. This was a full-time focus on getting projects done, and we wanted to somehow step up the recognition. So fundamentally, the reason for forming the certification program was to claim, hey, listen, people, project management is a profession. It's something like an accountant, it's like an engineer, it's a profession. And so we wanted to recognize it that way. So in '81, we set about forming this organization. But the other thing that was sort of underlying, and depends on who you talk to, how important it was, but one of the things we found is when we started to interview other professional organizations about their certification process and how they went about doing it, what we found was that their membership actually went up. It actually got higher members because they incorporated the requirement to be a member of their professional organization in order to become certified. So that ended up being the approach that we took. And what we thought was, if we can use the certification as a leverage to get people to join the organization, we can grow the profession that way. So it was sort of a dual focus, recognize it's a profession, and then get people that haven't normally been project managers interested in joining PMI to learn a lot more about project management. So it had a dual purpose. It took a long time. It took almost 3 years to actually perfect the process, to lay out all the details that needed to be done. It turns out when you're certifying people that you're making some claims that you better be able to back them up. And so we had a lot of work to do to make sure we did all the right things as we moved into that formulation of the certification process in itself. At that time, there was no project management certification. Nobody was offering that as a credential. Nobody had even talked about doing that as a credential. So we were way ahead of the power curve and had a chance to really make this thing work, and worked well right from the very beginning.
Nice story, Lee. It was really nice, and thank you. We are grateful with you because you're saying that project management wasn't considered a profession at that moment. So it's really nice to see that the creation of the PMP certification helped to build this, to build all of this that we are passionate right now. So thank you for that. So let's go to the next, please. Okay, the second question that we have here is, well, you mentioned that you were a committee of 5 people. So we would like to know more about who were these individuals that championed and contributed to the development of the certification.
Yeah, their names carved in stone. There's no doubt about that. There were five people, 2 of them in the construction business, 2 of them in the pharmaceutical business, and 1 that was in the aircraft, McDonnell Douglas aircraft. 4 guys and 1 lady, Susan Gallagher was her name. And unfortunately, they've all passed. Now, Jim Snyder was the last living founder, and he passed just a few months ago. So we don't have any of the original 5, but I knew them all well. Gordon Davis was out of Atlanta. Eric Jeanette was out of Houston. Ned Engman was out of McDonnell Douglas in Philadelphia, and Susan Gallagher and Jim Snyder worked for SmithKline, also in the Philadelphia area. They started around a coffee table at a meeting place and said, we need to have an organization for project managers, and that's really how it started. And the growth was quite slow. In the beginning, because no one had ever heard of project management, essentially, they didn't see it grow as rapidly as they would like, but they dedicated pretty much their lives to the formation and improvement of the PMI organization. And many of them, 3 of the 5, have very major awards named after them. And so they've recognized the founders in a way that you'll never. It's one of the things, if you Google the 5 founders, boy, their names just pop right up. They've kept them in the forefront of how this organization came about. Now we're up to about 750,000 members right now. That's across the world, of course, and predominantly it had been the U.S. and Canada. But it turns out the numbers that we crunch these days say there's almost as many members outside of North America than there is inside of North America. So we're seeing a good balance, a good recognition by the foreign entities throughout the world. We have PMI, at 309 PMI chapters around the world. So probably in every country that you would go to, you could stop in on a PMI meeting. I went to 51 countries last year and attended meetings at almost every single one of those countries. So project management is here to stay, and I think they've started to realize how important it is. Harvard Business Review is giving it good coverage, and I think these five guys are very proud of what they started.
Yes, definitely. I would be so proud if I would have that opportunity, that great opportunity of being in that committee. So it is a legacy, a big legacy that you deliver to all of us. So let's continue with this. Okay, the next question is, how has the PMP certification evolved since its inception? And what are the most significant milestones in its development right now, since its development?
Yeah, this is a kind of an amazing story. Something that started this small. In the 3 years that we prepared, not only did we have to prepare a certification exam to qualify that you are in fact a professional, we also had to think ahead to what do we do to maintain that when we want to renew it. So out of that came the PDUs. We also had to put qualification standards, which back in that time, I was responsible for qualification standards, and we had 3 qualifications: education, experience, and service to the community. Those were the 3, and you had to get 90 points out of the criteria in order to qualify, just to sit for the exam. So we had a lot of work to do. That's why it took 3 years. Finally, in October of 1984, we offered the very first PMI exam. And at the time, there was no automated systems. There was no testing centers. So the only place we could do the exam, it turns out, was at the National Symposium. Now that's morphed into the global summit. But back then it was just a national symposium, and we set aside a day to take the exam for anyone who thought they could qualify. So we had quite a few applications. I rejected a few, lack of depth of experience. But basically, what we said is you got to have at least about 3 years of actual experience in the project management world as one of the main criteria to pass the exam, to sit for the exam. So we finally, it was in Philadelphia, the first exam, and we had 55 people qualify and attend to sit for the exam. 55 people. Now, back then, there was no, a lot of people don't know this either. Back then, there was no body of knowledge. There was no PMBOK. The PMBOK wasn't even published until 1996. But there were a lot of white papers, a lot of articles written by people that we respected. That kind of became our basis for questions. And each body of knowledge areas, we isolated on 8 body of knowledge areas, each one had 40 questions. So 40 questions times 8 is 320 questions. Well, we knew that was a lot of questions, and so we gave people a full day to take the exam. You could take 4 hours in the morning to do the first 4 body of knowledge areas, 4 hours in the afternoon to do the second, and then submit your finished product. Once you submitted your final test exam paper, then it was qualified and judged and scored, and you would be notified 6 weeks later. So you take the test, and 6 weeks later, you'd find out whether you passed or not. Well, I mean, we've certainly morphed a lot since then, but that was the criteria. And for years, for many years, and I tried to find out when we switched over to some of these things, but it's not very well documented. But for years, that was the only time you could take the exam, was at the National Symposium. We did it in San Antonio. We did it in San Francisco. We did it in places that we held the National Symposium. Along with that came the opportunity to take the exam. Well, what we found out was a lot of people were interested in the exam, but they weren't able to afford, if you will, the being able to go to a national symposium that would end up costing them $1,000 or more, just for the purpose of taking the exam. And so we had to try to see if we could do exams at other locations, just as a testing center location. So we began to move in that direction. Also, as the growth started to happen, in 1996, we had been giving the test for 10 years. At this time, it was still 8 body of knowledge, 40 questions in each. You had to pass 6 of them to be able to take the last 2. If you missed more than 2, you had to take the whole exam over. So you could sit for the 8 and pass 6 and still only have to take 2 to pass it and get your PMP. So in 1996, because everyone on that original committee had been restricted from taking the exam for 10 years, we thought that was a little bit absurd. Many of us had hoped we'd get grandfathered in so we wouldn't have to take it. But they said, no, you have to take it same as everybody else. And you can take it in 10 years. That way we will avoid any possible conflict of interest or inside knowledge. And so several people were pretty upset about that. But we waited, and almost to the day, 10 years, I got a letter that said, okay, you can take the exam now. Well, it'd been in effect 10 years, and I really didn't have a choice. I mean, if I didn't take the exam, but more importantly, if I didn't pass the exam, my credibility would have disappeared. No one would believe a thing I said. And so I arranged to take it with a group of AT&T people in Altamont Springs, Florida. I sat in with about 25 AT&T people and took the exam. I finished the entire exam in 2 hours and 45 minutes, not 8 hours. And I was afraid I probably failed. It was too easy. I just went too quickly. And so I went home thinking, oh my gosh, I failed that darn thing. And people were laughing at me for getting done so soon. They figured I just gave up. Well, it turns out in 6 weeks, I got notice I passed. I was very happy about that, as you can imagine. And so my credential number, and at that time, they were still numbering them linearly. Now that's kind of a random numbering system. But my number was 6,018. So after 10 years, we only had 6,018 PMPs. Most of us felt that was pathetic. And so we convened a meeting with people that were smarter than us, obviously, to talk about what do we do to really spike this, to really make it start to grow. And 2 things were decided. One is you got to drop the requirement to be a PMI member. A lot of people are offended by that. For me to be a PMP, I got to join an organization. And so we said, okay, we'll do that. We'll drop it. What that did is that opened up the market to anybody that wanted to be a certified project manager, basically. And so that was step 1. Step 2, which is really the difference, was that we had to infiltrate major U.S. corporations with the idea of a certification process. And so what happened in 1996 is that IBM, AT&T, Motorola, almost every major corporation in America embraced the PMP as their internal certification methodology. So all of a sudden, the importance of the PMP was far beyond anything PMI was doing. It was really tied to these organizations that, that basically said, this is a credible way to determine how good our project managers are. And so out of that came one other side benefit, and that is they started to look at proposals, RFPs, and in the RFPs, the people who are writing the RFPs, when they talked about your key management team, they wanted to see people with PMPs. And so now all of a sudden, for them to be competitive, an IBM had to propose a team on a proposal that had at least one or two PMPs. So suddenly everybody in IBM wanted to have a PMP. I myself, just when I started training, I've trained over 3,000 IBM people. I trained over 5,000 Sprint people. And a lot of that was because they wanted to have the credibility associated with a person's name when they provided them as input in an RFP. They obviously wanted better management of their projects, but they also wanted to give themselves a leg up. And so that and peer pressure, once somebody in the organization got a PMP, then everybody's going to say, I better get one too. If Bob's got one, if Sally got one, I better get one. And so those combinations of things are really what made it take off. Then once it took off, you see, then we started to get feedback that people who had gone through the exam process, preparation and exam process, were performing much better in the job market than people who were not. So now we also build into the process a salary differential process. So people who had their PMP had the opportunity to be paid a little bit more. And now the studies show in major corporate magazines, they show that the pay structure for a PMP versus a non-PMP with similar experience is about 30%. So if you can see that by investing, I think it's about $600 plus what you cost to prepare, investing that kind of money can justify a 25 to 30% salary increase. That's what we call in the States a no-brainer. I mean, why would you not do that? And so that started to put a lot of pressure as well on people to become more qualified in the use of the project management. And at the same time, this was all happening, the tools and techniques of the trade were also expanding. So we were getting more sophisticated scheduling systems. We were getting work breakdown structure definitions. We were getting risk management. So all the things that we've been doing back in the 50s and 60s, just because we knew it was a smart thing to do, became part of the profession. So when PMI picked up the gauntlet to really make project management a success, they got a lot of help. There's no question about that. And I think where we are right now is that we're right on the edge of another breakthrough. I think with our new CEO, Pierre Lamont, the approaches he's taken, the emphasis he's put on AI and some of the other automated concepts that we can add value to project management for, I think you're going to see a massive growth in the certification process. 1.5 million, when you think about it, there's estimated to be about 40 million project managers in the world. Now, they're not all called project managers, but there's about 40 million. And the projections are saying that by the turn of this decade, they're going to need 25 million new project management people. Now, 13 million of those are replacements for people retire. So one of the areas we're worried about is that all our intellectual property is getting old. I mean, I'm old. I'm 79. And so, you know, I only got a few years left. And when I leave, I'm taking a lot of stuff with me. There's no doubt about it. Well, as other old people leave the profession, that's going to leave a knowledge gap. And it's something that we're going to have to pay close attention to. So even though we're going to need 25 million, only 12 million of those will be brand new in terms of the project management process. The other 13 are going to be replacements for those people that have retired. We've also introduced, so that you know if any of you are in that field, we've just introduced the same kind of a process for construction management professionals. So that's just getting off the ground floor, just starting to teach classes, starting to execute the exam. We're one of the only ones that are doing that. I get a chance to go to Athens, Greece in December and present our certification program and compare and contrast it with what's necessary on the construction side. So I'm planning on getting that construction certificate. I want to be a certified construction project person. So I'm going to continue to get that. But I think it's important to note that being certified has all positive benefits. I have never heard anybody say, oh, I wish I hadn't done that because. No one says that. Anybody who gets certified, gets their PMP credential, is benefited by that. The only, and it's not a downside to me, but the only downside is that you have to get PDUs. You have to continue your educational process by recording at least 60 PDUs in the talent triangle areas to maintain your credential. And then for a fee of like $60, you've got your 60 PDUs and your certificate is renewed. Now, I've renewed mine. I think I just renewed mine for the 13th time. So I've renewed 13 times, and I'll tell you, don't ever let it lapse. That's a huge mistake because some people say, well, I don't want to have to pay for 60 PDUs every year. I haven't paid for a PDU for 20 years. PMI is making it possible now to maintain your credentials without spending a penny if you don't want to. They have so many free opportunities, but the fact of the matter is you've got to understand why we have PDUs and why everything we do, we have to claim how many PDUs are associated with it. And the reason for that is the reason we came up with PDUs was really not for the number of 60. It was so people would continue to expand their knowledge base. Because as you've certainly seen over the years, and some of you are old enough to see some of this happen, the body of knowledge is under constant change. I mean, we revise the PMBOK every 4 years, and it's gone through massive change from 1996 to 2000 and to the 2007 version, to the 7th edition, I'm sorry. And the 8th edition is already in preparation stage. So when changes happen in the environment, let me use AI as an example. It's the best one. AI has been around for a long time, but now PMI and all project managers have begun to see the benefits associated with AI, and they've begun to embrace that. Well, if you're a project manager and you're a certified PMP, but you haven't taken any coursework, you haven't taken any seminars or workshops in how AI can add value to your effort as a project manager, then you're not current with the body of knowledge. And so the tests are going to remain current with the body of knowledge. So you're going to get to a testing situation and you're going to be tested on things you're not prepared. You haven't stayed current with the opportunity to learn that. And so in PMI, for example, when AI hit, I felt like I was sort of blindsided. I didn't see it coming that fast. I've now taken all the free PMI AI courses. I've played with their PMI Infinity, which is their equivalent to Chat GPT, because I want to be knowledgeable in these areas, because I am finding that AI has an incredible benefits that I can take advantage of in the world of project management, and to not understand it, and not how to prepare a prompt and use the Chat GPT or Copilot or any of the others that are out there on the market. If you're not prepared to do that, you're not going to be able to recognize that value. So I think you'll see that as we go into this process, one of the things we want to do is we want to make it easy for you to take the exam. Not easy to pass the exam. The exam is extremely difficult. If any of you have taken it recently, it's difficult. And so we don't want to make that easy, but we do want to make access easy. And so the pandemic helped speed us along in this way. And it forced us in PMI to create a way to take the exam at home, online, have it proctored by a PMI representative, but do it by yourself in your home, not have to go to a testing center. During the pandemic, of course, we weren't doing that much anyway. And so now we have, you can take it in groups, you can take it in your house, you can take it at a testing center. We're making it very easy for you to be able to take that exam, add that benefit to your credentials, if you will, and be able to take advantage of the knowledge that's going to change, because it's going to change again. I mean, with AI, the next step is going to be quantum computing. It's never going to end. I mean, when I started, it was Harvard Project Manager, which was a linear project scheduling program. Has it ever changed? Well, it changes every 4 or 5 years. Changed with Agile, changed with work breakdown structures, changed with AI. The changes keep coming, because anything that goes through continuous improvement is going to change. And if you don't stay current, your performance will begin to show that. So we want to be sure that we give everybody the example that they can take. Now, the only thing we've run into, which is a little bit of a danger spot that's being thoroughly looked at now, is we get the integrity of the online testing process has been questioned occasionally. People who want to cheat, not the people taking the exam, but the people who make it possible to cheat, they're out there. And if they can see a chance to make some money by making it easy for you to pass the exam, they'll try to get you to do that. They actually advertise online. I've had people to email me and say, look, here's an ad that was on the paper last week that says, send us your money, we'll send you a certificate. So that there's a little bit of an integrity problem with the online testing that we're trying to see if we can resolve that completely. But all in all, as I said, I've kept current in that I sign a LinkedIn congratulations to every single person that posts on LinkedIn that they passed the exam, which is most of them. I have 100,000 followers on LinkedIn, and they pass the exam. Boy, that's the first thing you want to do is post that, because I send them a nice little note. The reason I raise that up, because a lot of people thought the PMP was sort of dying off and we had to have all these other subordinate credentials. But in fact, I sign, some days I sign 20 of those, other days only 10. But when you look at per day rates, we're going to go past 2 million by the end of the decade, I would think, in terms of PMPs. So it's a system it's here to stay. It's been copied or attempted to be copied by other organizations, but the credibility is not there. We're so entrenched in terms of credibility, people believing that it adds value to what they do, that it's going to be very hard to replace that simply by giving them some cheap opportunity. So I think the PMP is something I would recommend, probably other than perhaps a 4-year degree. I would recommend that one of the next most important things you can get as someone involved in project work is the PMP, and set that as an objective. I think you'll pay back in no time how much return on that investment there is.
Yes.
That's sort of
definitely.
the background. Now, the other good news, though, is, you should know this. None of that 320 questions anymore. That was too many. We now have 200 questions, and they're not by body of knowledge. They're by certain criteria areas, the same as the talent triangle, essentially. And so there's 200 questions, and you only have 4 hours to get that done. So you got 4 hours to do 200. And here's something that I still don't understand. I can't get anybody to explain it to me. They'll tell you that there's 20 or 25 of those 200 don't count towards your score. So, my question is, why do you have them? There's a reason. These academic intellectuals, they have a reason. So just recognize, you won't know which ones they are. So you got to answer them. You got to answer them all like they all count. But we've taken it down. We've changed the testing questions. You should be aware of this. When you take the exam, every question will have 4 potential choices. 4 choices. What we've learned over the years, and very few people ever have knowledge, they ever see the test. It's kept in a sealed vault. Nobody sees the exam. But over the years taking the exam, we've learned that 2 of the 4 answers are obviously wrong. If you've studied it all, you go like, wait, that doesn't apply to this question at all. So what they tell you to do is read the question carefully, then read the answers, try to eliminate the 2 that don't seem to fit at all, and now you're down to a 50-50 chance. So it's a way to improve the potential of you score. And you don't have to get 100%. It's around 70. Again, they don't talk about that much. It's around 70%. It gets you the credential. And so you don't study to get 100%. You study to pass the exam. And there's going to be some you just won't know. You just won't get. And that's something you have to be willing to accept. Just don't take too much time on the ones you don't get. You're wasting time. Remember, it's a time test. So questions you don't get to, that's the same as answering them wrong. So you want to get through all of them. You want to, even if you have to go back the last 2 minutes and just guess every single one that you haven't done, at least give it a chance to get 1 or 2 of those correct. Okay. So that's where it sits right now. Your future is in your hands. It's nobody has the responsibility to make you take this exam. You have to do it on your own recognizance. You have to decide, is it worth taking the exam? Let me give you an example. In Saudi Arabia, I just got back from there a couple of weeks ago. They have now put into place a policy. They have a very big chapter there, by the way. They're expected to do $2 trillion in construction projects by the end of this decade. Trillion, not billion, trillion. So they made an offer to anyone who wants to get their PM certification. In this case, it's construction management. And certification, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia will reimburse them for the cost. So here's an opportunity for free. And that's the way it started out early on in this particular area. But then when so many people started passing it, they sort of sucked that down. to where now they don't pay for it anymore. But if you got in
Yes.
early, you can make some money taking the test. So keep in mind it's your career. As I say, I use this tagline all the time. It's your career, manage it. I mean, nobody's going to give you anything. And so we're telling you what's out there for you. You got to decide if you want it or not.
Thank you. Thank you, Lee, for sharing your experience and also for these advices to all the people here that haven't sit for the PMP exam. I think that is very useful for all the people that is interested in getting this exam. So we have just 10 minutes. So I would like to take one questions from our audience. So one of the question is, what is the role of the project manager in the future? What do you think is going to be the role of the project manager in the future?
Are you asking me in the future? I'm sorry, the sound thing is just driving me crazy.
Yes. I was saying that, well, now we have 10 minutes left, and we have a question from our audience today, and it is, what is the role of what you consider is the role of the project manager in the future? That is the question.
Okay. Well, here's what the nice thing about the future for young people, not for me, it's too late for me, is that the profession of project management has grown in sophistication significantly, because there's so many of the tools and techniques that can be handled from an automation standpoint, that what they've basically done is free up more of my time to do what project managers should be doing, is thinking and making decisions based on the latest, greatest information. So I think it's important for us to understand that, to me, again, I've been kind of fooling around with this Chat GPT, and things that I know took me days previously when in my General Electric days. With AI support, I could do that in minutes or seconds. I've actually had some of them do it in 15 seconds, what it would have taken me days to do, just because they have that amalgamation of tremendous amounts of information. Now, that doesn't mean you get to shirk off your responsibility to be sure that what you're suggesting is good information. But you've got to realize that when AI first hit the street heavy in Atlanta last year at the Global Summit, I started getting a lot of phone calls from PMP people saying, well, now what do I do? I've gone to all this trouble to earn my PMP, and now in comes AI. I'm afraid I'm going to lose my job. And I tried to explain to them, nobody's going to lose their job because of AI. Now, if they don't embrace AI and learn how to use that tool to enhance their performance as a project manager, well, yeah, you might lose your job to somebody who knows how to do that. So, but just the fact that AI exists and has been made possible doesn't mean you're going to lose your job. And I think that's and it's going to get better and better. The more you use it, the more sophisticated. I broke in earned value back in the 60s. And when I first started doing it, it was awful. It was terrible. It was difficult. By the time I stopped using it in about 1980, I had that down to where the people hired me to implement earned value systems in their organization. So there's a growth period. You're not going to become an AI expert in a couple of weeks. I can assure you of that. But it's also not going to cost you your job unless you allow it to.
Mm-hmm. And also PMI is helping us a lot.
Make sure people understand is that your salary, while your salary is not the only reason you want to be good at project management, but your salary with the PMP credential gives you more spending capability to enhance your lifestyle outside the workplace. So if nothing else, that's a pretty darn good reason to become good at what you do.
Thank you. Thank you, Lim. So I think that the last message is that we need to keep us updated, keep us learning a lot. And I think that PMI, people like you is helping us a lot to our continuous growing and improvement. So thank you. Thank you for that. So I think this is the last, this was the last question. So what is coming next, Bryan?
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Vanessa, for your support in the questions. So before to finish this PD talks, we would like to send for Lee Lambert his certification as a speaker, because Lee Lambert helped us in this year as a speaker in the Thinking Out Loud project. And the last year, Lee Lambert was one of the speakers in the PMI Rocks. For that, we are very grateful with him. Okay, Lee Lambert, thank you. This is your certification for you. Okay, there is 4 minutes to finish. Okay, in general, by the name of PMI Lima, because I had the opportunity to be one of the directors of the board in the last year. PMI Lima in this year will be 25 years of creation. This milestone is very beautiful for a chapter. For that, we are very grateful with the support, with the contribution of Lee Lambert. We are very happy with you. And also, Vanessa Acuña, we are very happy with you also, because you are helping in the questions, helping in the ideas to prepare in these webinars. Okay, people, okay, everyone, that's all for today. Before to take the photo, the final photo, we are going to tell you about the next PD talk. The PD talk number 6 will be on September 15 at 7 p.m. in the next month. Our speaker will be from Ecuador. And that's all. Lila, but thank you for your contribution in this webinar. So finally,
Thank you for the invite. I thoroughly enjoy these. I know working with Percy last year and Catherine this year, you guys got a heck of a PMI chapter there. I'm proud to be associated with it.
Okay, everyone. Before to finish this beautiful webinar with Lee Lambert. Okay, right now we are coming back to español. Okay. Okay, muchas gracias, Lee. Muchas gracias. Do you understand, Lee, right? Thank you so much for your contribution. For that, Early, favor de apoyarnos con la última foto, por favor. Favor de activar sus cámaras, les agradecemos bastante. Aproveche, estamos con un invitado de lujo. An special speaker from US.
Para tomar la foto, ¿qué tal? Bueno.
Y muchas gracias, Vanessa. Ahora sí en español. Muchísimas gracias por el apoyo.
Con mucho gusto.
Bien, bien.
Thank you, Lee. Thank you, everyone.
Por ahí vamos. Ahora vamos a tomar una foto ya por ahí. ¿Quién más se anima? A la 1, a las 2,
Yeah, thumbs
a las
up. I
3.
love it.
Bien. Una. Otra más por ahí. ¿Alguien más se anima? Poner su cámara. 1, 2, 3. Bien, listo. Perfecto. Ahí se les comparte la foto por correo también. Cuando se les haga entrega de su certificado. Gracias.
Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you so much. Don't forget to fill the form, please, the survey. Thank you. Good evening. Thank you, Lee. Thank you, Vanessa. Ahora sí en español.
Thank you,
Muchas gracias,
everyone.
Vanessa.
See you.
Estamos trabajando. Okay, muchas
Gracias.
gracias.
Bye. Bye.